Hi everybody, you are watching tutorials. My name is Alex and today we're gonna design a home page based on custom illustrations in Gravit Designer. Custom illustration, custom vector illustration have a lot of advantages, and it's not a surprise that they create this long-lasting trend in landing page design, because they are scalable, adjustable, and animation ready. Of course, by a custom illustration I mean vectors that we will draw in Gravit Designer in the 5 steps. And first step, of course, is sketching. Sketching for me is a necessity, but my sketch never dictates the final outcome, and you will see then what I mean by that. Second is to design and set a mood of my illustration by preparing some inspiration. As you can see, I grab only images with very hot colors without any cold color. All of them are reddish, orangey, yellow photos. It's very warm colors. I go along the adjacent color scheme that has only 2 variation of colors on the color wheel. So as you can see now, I set my color palette, and it contains only 5 color spots, but again it's only a direction because the actual design is totally fictional, and there is no other requirements for me to maintain the consistent design. So I do not create even the second page of this design, and I have to go along the customer's brand colors. Yes, so it's only for our convenience. Yes, we have a colors, and we are ready to go further. And further, we need to design a little bit of our space. So basically what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna divide this illustration on the 3 parts. So first part is actual space of my vector illustration, and other parts is my negative design, and I'm ready to trace my main images. I'm gonna work with the pen tool. So I have already created a tutorial from the pen tool, you can see. So I won't comment this part of this tutorial in details. Basically what I'm doing now, I create a negative space of the area with my text and a call to action button and my introduction, of course. Now I'm working with the background. I'm just drawing the background of my illustration, and I want to render the field to nothing and set the border to around 6 pixels, so I clearly see the margins of my illustration. And I'm gonna lock the actual image, my actual sketch, here. Next then we are going to design our hills and our sand, and then also create this distant planet that's supposed to be as a planet, and our sun. When you create this kind of scenes, you need to always pay attention to the source of light. Let's start with the pen tool, and I'm gonna work on the sand here. Hold left mouse button key to bring up the direction handles, and then adjust the direction handles to create really smooth lines on your illustrations. Then work with the direct selection tool or or subselect tool as it's called in Gravit. Again, next thing, I think we can speed up a little bit our tutorial. Next step is to design heels. So I'm gonna create the full massive of my heel with the pen tool. The bottom part is not very important because it's hidden by the sand. And then I'm gonna define this curvy line that bisecting it into the two parts. A first part is oriented towards the light source. It should be more lighter when we're gonna color, and one part should be less brighter and less saturated. So duplicate your original file and then select both this part and duplicate, and go to the Boolean shape separated and click to intersect them. So you basically have the whole shape and you have a part of the heel. And here I want to also speed up the tutorial because it's actually a repeatable part. Next step is to create a moon or a star or a planet. So our moon should be a simple circle, gray circle. And then I'm gonna duplicate this moon and enlarge it to create the sun. We need to create several larger copies. In order to do this, you can visit the transform panel, click on the transform button to bring up the panel, and here we need to set 120% width and height, and set the number of duplicates you prefer. In my case, I'm working with only 4 duplicates. Then set a color and decrease the opacity of them to around 35, maybe so even 30 degrees. I decided to create a shared style for a reason, because then I can update this shared style and all of my duplicates will be updated at once. Guys, our sun is our main light source, so when we color in our illustration, don't forget about this. So so let's go to the coloring step, and first of all we need to apply a gradient to the fill of our background, and here we need to keep in mind that our sun is the main source of the light in this illustration. So we need to arrange our gradient in diagonal line, and the lighter color should be in the area that is close to the sun, and the more distant area should be darker here. Planet to our moon, place one of the point towards the sun, and second point make it more darker. Then I'm gonna apply the effect that called overlay. So I'm gonna go to the effects, more adjust overlay, effects adjust overlay. Then I'm gonna enable the blend to render one of the side to transparent, and then adjust the transparency of this side. So let's start working with these heels. I'm going to design them in the way that part that is oriented towards the sun should be more bright, more saturated, and another part should be more grayish. And by the way, guys, the main focal point of your illustration, the main subject of your illustration should be more bright, more saturated, and more prominent, and other that create a background to them, to this object, should be more grayish kind of illustration. This is the way you can create a harmonic design. So let's go to the part. I'm gonna apply this more dark color, and I'm gonna decrease the saturation of the sides. As you can see, I push them to the less brighter and more grayish zone. I also create a swatch. And now I'm working with a distant sand hill. Now I'm working with the same gradients, but of course the brightness of these gradients would be, and saturation would be decreased, because it's more distant sand hill and it's located beyond our focal points. This is basically what I'm working on now. The next is to color the sand. The next is to color the sand, and well, I'm going to delete the borders and apply gradient to fill. And the major rule here is to again arrange them in the way that our more brighter and more saturated color is on top, and our less saturated color is and less brighter, more dark color on the bottom. I also, as you can see, rearrange my objects, my sands on the layers panel. So I basically bring them forward. Then to the rear shape I apply less brighter color. I decrease the saturation and brightness. Now, as you can see, I have an issue and I want to remedy this issue. One of the point has not very smooth transition between my hilt and create this kind of very sharp angle here. Very rough angle. So I simply want to hide this angle behind there. Again, I'm not sure about my style here. As you can see, I created two prominent colors and I want to decrease the saturation. Let this secondary objects in my illustration speak on the grayish colors, less saturated, more muted colors. As a little deviation from my original sketch, I first of all decided to recolor my sun to make it more red, more prominent here. The red is the most energetic colors here. So then again, I want to create another sand layer, this wavy line. Because it's the front, it should be more saturated. Last but not least, I also want to introduce another hill. The composition with the odd number of the elements assumed to be more harmonic. So I decided to create 3 elements, 3 thin hills and 3 3 wavy lines. Now I want to smoothen a bit my lines. So from this point I want to fine-tune a bit my gradients, my colors, and it's a rather tedious task, so I want to speed up this part of my tutorial and give you some music to keep you entertained. And again, my sun, I decided to recolor it to red here. Well, I decided here to place some minor elements, and I think it was a little bit a mistake of mine. As you can see, I still haven't designed the negative space of my negative space, and doesn't fill it with the elements, with the headline and the call to action. But I already want to connect the very cold white color with a very warm illustration. So basically this 3 dots is a little bit connection between the 2 very distinct parts of my illustration, and this is one of the methods how you can connect by meaning, opposite by meaning illustration. White is supposed to be a very cold color. It's a color of the snow, and to connect this color with my illustration, I decided to create these 3 dots that would lead from this white color, from the white space, to my hot, very bright illustration. And it's also decrease the size of the negative space here. Again, this time my main goal is to reduce the amount of white here. White is a very cold and uninviting color. Another idea of these dots is to create some kind of breakpoints in our route, because it's a traveling home page and I want to portray an image of some travel destination. I decided to create these 3 route points, and probably it's good for animation purposes. Next we need to create a headline, and I also create a distinct layers group for this headline. Grab the text tool and start typing. So for this headline, I decided to choose Poppins bold and decrease the line spacing, leading here. I also want to pour more character spacing into the trip. First of all, to align it with the word long, and second because, well, it's a long trip, so the word should be long. I choose a bold typeface to denote the challenges that we need to overcome by traveling on the sand. So bold, courageous are the traits that I want to perceive in this typography. It should be bold here. So I start with the orangey color that already in my colored palette, but then well, I want to apply the gradient here. So next I decided to create a generous, very call to action button, set a drop shadow. I wanted to be hanging on the top of the main page, so I decided to introduce a large drop shadow and apply the gradient. First I thought about sandy gradient with a major light source as my thumb, but then I decided to put a bit more red here to this bottom. I applied the gradient according to the light source that was on the top right. I want to size down the headline and recolor my button a bit to more saturated, more vibrant colors, and then save it as a color swatch, this gradient, and apply this gradient as a fill of my text. Again, maintaining our light source. Keep in mind your light source. So we're almost done. I also want to scale my illustration, reduce the width of my artboard, align the elements properly, and finally I decided to set some intro text here to push up the headline, and grab the text tool and draw a marquee. And here I want to simply fill out the space with the lorem ipsum. In order to do this, type lorem in the field and then click space bar to create more lorem ipsum text. Last thing, of course, give it a color. For the call to action text, I decided to capitalize the color, the text, and choose a very actionable word. Set the typeface to Poppins bold. Set size into auto to increase the bounding box according to the text, length of text, and then increase the character spacing, increase the tracking of our word itself. be nice to create a small animation as these connected dots on the bottom below the call to action button should play a role of slider. So when you click to the dots, you can read a little bit about the destination, and you also can change the actual illustration. For example, portraying the image of the sand at night with a lot of stars, with a very clear horizon. So let's place a minor element in the design. It's our hamburger menu. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna start simply with 3 equally separated rectangles, and probably if I contemplate on this menu a little bit more, so I would round the corners and decrease the size of the line in the center, so make the whole direction, the whole shape a little bit more wavy as well. So it better correspond with the design itself, with the actual mood of this illustration. I'm not fully satisfied with the size and the boldness of my hamburger menu, so I decided simply to find it in the library, icon library, and pick up and grab this menu, default icon from library. And again, it's because I'm not fully satisfied with these sharp corners. If I have more time to creating more and contemplating more on this design, I definitely go up to around the corners and create this and decrease the width of line in the middle. So we are done. As you can see, we managed to combine the artistic outlook with the landing page best practices. As you may know that average visitor pay 5 seconds of his attention to the title, 5 seconds to the illustration, and 5 seconds to different areas such as menu and logo design. So we have 15 seconds to send our message, and it's very important that our landing page has a very cohesive design. Last but not least, I should say that this is exactly what I expect from the Gravit designer. So combination of artistic vector illustrations and design tool with a very slim, very modern, non-obstructive interface designer. So guys, again, do not forget to visit tutorials.net for more Gravit designer and Adobe Illustrator tutorials. Join the Facebook Gravit designer tutorials group. Join the Facebook Gravit designer users group. Keep watching tutorials.net. Keep learning. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to share your works through the social media. So tag me on Instagram, tag me on Twitter, and let's discuss your design. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.